Well, ladies and gentlemen, JSnip4 with Realist News on YouTube. One of my favorite times of doing videos is when that WebBot report comes out. I'm always excited, psyched to see what's in this thing. What's the near future potentially going to look like? I'm not even going to give the huge disclaimer other than dates and time frames known to be off many times in the WebBot reports. Sometimes they're spot on, sometimes they're not. There's a lot of stuff you're going to hear. May or may not happen. But a lot does. And I always do WebBot hit. So if you search YouTube, JSnip4, WebBot hit, or just WebBot, you'll see all the videos I've ever done. Many times I'll come out and show you the hits that it said this would happen in the future on this time frame, and here it is. Anyways, this is the February 2017 WebBot report. This is a summary. As usual, there is way more in the report. I squeezed in finally this time a little bit at the end. The woo-woo, if you will, or as Cliff has aptly named it, Space Goat's Fart entity. Because I've had some requests. Hey, you usually leave that stuff out. Now that Antarctica is kind of coming up, can you maybe at least spend a little bit of your summary time doing that? And I said, you know what? I think I will. So I was able to cut out some things that, not that important. You know what I mean? So here we go. First things first, if you want to buy this report, the full report, that's Cliff High, his website, halfpasthuman.com. He accepts Bitcoin, of course, PayPal. I think they're roughly $15 a piece every month. Totally worth it, in my opinion. Got to give him the shout out because he allows me to do these summaries. And I absolutely love it. I'm thrilled that I get to come out here and read this and give you my little spin sometimes on what I think he may have meant by such and such or whatever. So here we go. Stoke it. Forecast for February 2017 through 2034. Asymmetric Linguistic Trends Analysis Intelligence, or ALTA report from Half Past Human. Again, real quick, I always forget to say this in the beginning sometimes. I read paragraph. They may not necessarily be back to back. I may be skipping pages and then just putting it in here, so you may not know where I am or why that last paragraph doesn't jive with the next paragraph. It's just the way it is. The divergence of global pop thought about the global warming theory is showing up as being reinforced in the general populace mind as cold, more cold, snow, freezing, ice, and more cold show up in extra outside seasonal patterns in both hemispheres, north and south. As model space has progressed through February and March, the data has record cold in late summer in the northern hemisphere. This divergence from normal summer weather is indicated to be flipping and thrashing the southern hemisphere with mountain skiing one day and then only a few days later, intense heat. And flash floods, of course, from melting snows. These sets are also extensively cross-linked over to the new UV as in ultraviolet and other unknown energies from space, where we have rapid evaporation, ocean fogs, being temporally linked to abnormal snows and cold. Other effects tied by the data to atmosphere and atmospheric changes include increasing reports of burning from mere minutes exposure to direct sunlight. However, the nature of the burning rays will not be determined for some time according to the data, as the burning rays will have physical evidence, including peeling paint, as well as sunburned humans and animals and plants. Other effects are showing as including softened metals and destroyed plastics. The problem that seems to be the issue is that these effects will be both irregular and not uniformly distributed. It may be some time before the scientific community understands it is a lens effect within the atmosphere. Yet more crosslinks are showing up between UFO sightings and emerging Earth changes. These are including swarms of both earthquakes and UFOs together. Some of these sets are for Southern California and Mexico for a day of rocking, in which two sets of swarms of earthquakes will also each have swarms of UFO sightings near to the epicenters of the quakes. In the sets for earthquakes, we also have earthquakes in Antarctica that are showing as causing major freakout phases within the elites at a global level. The data sets have the connection between the earthquake in Antarctica, mostly not reported other than at the woo-woo level, then being tied to the increasing freakout phases on the elites. Again, at the woo-woo level, what is going to shock a larger group of the population will be the legacy media, also noting the cross-tie between events in Antarctica and elite movements. The sudden freezing events are forecast to expand in our awareness over 2017 and early 2018 to include yet more frozen pillars of water that will reach up over 30 meters and will include forests of such towers or ice trees. These forests of ice trees are suggested as a building block for the new glaciers when they become repeatedly frozen and partially thawed to create very large ice dams that will be acting as heat sinks through to underlying rock formations. These are but a few of the descriptors for the new language around freezing in all of its wonderful forms. These sets include yet more sets for strange atmospheric events at sea that are going to include snowfalls that do not melt but float upon the waters for hundreds of miles. These are forecast as being in video produced by ship crews and cruise line passengers over late 2017 and early 2018. Some of the new sets are hinting at a new form of the growth of sinkholes and rifts. Now, as you will know, I got to interrupt here. Cliff High, through his webbot, said this is a few years ago, watch the sinkhole. There's a sinkhole phenomenon coming. And don't you remember that giant thing was in Russia or near Russia? This unprecedented massive hole is just there one day, and scientists are going to climb down there and see what the hell. And haven't heard much about that, but other sinkhole phenomenon too. The report called it way in advance. I do have to give it credit, so that's why I have to interrupt here. It's saying again, some of the new data sets are hinting at a new form of the growth of sinkholes and rifts. These data sets have the idea of collapsing cave systems that will be causing havoc when these occur. First of these are suggested as appearing in wilderness areas, then being discovered and shown in video or on video later. Temporal connections have the video of the collapsed caves appearing coincident with yet other instances nearer to human habitation, and in some instances right underneath the buildings. These sets have buildings that will drop into holes that are not sinkholes, but rather show up as ruptured cave tops. The data has upper stories of the buildings sticking out of the holes. These sets are also significant for the sudden military activities that will be around the cave collapse eating buildings area and the large number of conspiracy theory people who flock to the site due to its urban location. These sets also include language for fights and battles that will be occurring under the earth as the public, especially the woo-woo people, insist on exploring it themselves. In the data sets, this contention over access is showing as going on for weeks, if not months, as the military local to the event tries to contain the many points of access that will be described as a spooky museum of mummies. While the tendency is to think Egypt, the data sets are suggesting either northern Central American or southern North America as the location for this cave system collapse. The global pop entity. The good news is that not only are a number of prominent... I forgot. Let me say something. I did get the email newsletter from Lindsey Williams and stuff. His new DVD's out. Remember he said that couple months ago after Trump won? I'm going to wait till January, February before the next thing comes out. I should know more information by my elite friend by then. As you would expect, I'm going to buy the thing because it is totally worth at least doing the video since so many people enjoy it and I get a lot of views on them. So clearly people want to know what he still has to say. I will gladly fork over $50, which I did do. Okay, thanks. Global Pop. The good news is that not only are the are a number of prominent members of the evil ruling elites of the dollar empire going to perish over 2017, but humanity is also forecast to receive a slap in the face from the China Pop central authorities. The news over the upcoming months is forecast to include many obituaries where the reactions are humor and jocularity. Further, there are sets going to the idea of freakouts by the former ruling elites as their numbers deplete in a shocking and rapid fashion. Now that's interesting. In the ultimate of irony, the data sets have the ruling elites crying conspiracy to say that they are being killed off by a grand global conspiracy. Of course, no one will believe them or care. The ruling elites losing it meme is temporally coincident with the China Pop Central Authority's announcements for what we can call the Global Population 5-Year Plan. In these statements, the Chinese Central Authorities will be releasing real science and projections to the planetary population about the developing ice age. Further, these announcements are also indicated to cause the Western pedophilia power elites to have such spasms as to actually induce heart attack. Thus, the additional irony of yet another power elite being rushed to the hospital with a heart attack brought on by the escape of truth. These sets appear within model space over February through April. These new sets have excitability as a general reaction to the new passions. Additional note, we are actually looking for that phrase associated with new normality that will be flowing along with the secrets revealed meme. These data sets have upset, upheaval, stunned, frozen, paralyzed, catatonic, exhausted, collapsed, fallen, and other language going to the idea of a complete destruction of the status quo. Further, within the data sets at the detail levels, we have status quo defined to include elements going back to 325 CE and the founding of the modern Catholic Church by Constantine. Yet more data continuing to pile onto the idea of a global gold rush. Part of these sets are also referring to a new push from officialdom to create wealth. These sets are showing the officialdom sets as gaining extensive crosslinks over to popular gold rush. These sets have videos and other information streams that show gold mining and gold panning as being promoted by officialdom across a large swath of global pop. The data sets have gold rush in several contexts, including gold panning and gold mining at personal scale in many different locations across the planet. These gold rush sets also include references to Bitcoin as a new form of gold mining. Other sets have gold rush, including crawling into vents and drains with vacuum cleaners and fine bags, fine as in like super fine bags, to extract gold dust. Some rather strange sets are cross-linked over to Space Goat's Farts entity, which we also have sets suggesting that some gold hunters will be crawling in dangerous caves where they are going to find hidden resources that are not gold and will be causing lots of trouble for them, as well as the people trying to hide those resources. There are space alien subsets connected to the terminating sets in the Space Goat's Farts entity. We need to note that the pop war sections of our data sets are dwindling in emotional values with each processing. There are new sets growing, but each new processing is bringing in noticeably fewer longer-term values. Further, the emotional sums are indicating a waning level of emotional value supporting growth for pop war over these next 3 years. These sets are showing that environmental factors, as well as the reactions and results of the discovery in Antarctica and the creeping out of the new technologies, are going to suck energy from the vitalizing force for pop war, as in population war. That's the entity, whatever, pop war. The single largest primary emotional motivator is showing as being ice age conditions developing across many of the regions now hosting pop war. The inclement conditions within the data are causing more emotional shifts within the situation over the next 2 years than all other elements. Other contributing factors showing up that are much more immediate with a larger level of shorter-term impact include the shutdown and withdrawal of American military from a large number of countries over a relatively short period of time. Again, this is something that sentence has been in some older WebBot reports about our troops being essentially kicked out, not really just leaving, like, you need to go. We don't want you here anymore, kind of a thing. So that's now here in this data, newer data. This is indicated to have major impacts on global pop psychology as the global occupation ends. Further, the freeing of resources from the military occupation of the planet by the USA pop is also coincident with the rise in hyper technologies language within the datasets. The implication is that the USA pop corporations, ruling elites, decide that their longer-term survival is best bet on Antarctica and the discovery rather than the warfare and debt model. That would be nice for a change. The breakaway pop. The breakaway populace is showing in our data as being very active from about mid-March onward through the year. The activity sets are describing this as sporadic and choppy, as well as shocking to the sleeple and vomit-inducing to the powers that be, mostly their minions, as they will be the visible face of the freakout and mental meltdown. These activity sets are focusing on UFO and USO, or undersea unknown objects. The data sets have the underseas activities being the first visible cause for the freakout on the part of officialdom. This freakout is described as including press conferences that will be wild and strange as the officialdom tries to reconcile the lies about what is happening. The data sets have a new battlefield showing up in which the breakaway pop will be exposed slightly to those whom look. This new battlefield is the wars between the elites. These are clearly criminals and their organizations that are going to be at war. What is showing in the data sets now is that the breakaway pop is going to take a side. These sets are arguing that the breakaway pop has decided it cannot be out in the open with the establishment criminals still in charge. The data has some hints that there are off-planet agendas which will not be well served if breakaway pop has to contend with the establishment criminals. There are a few crosslinks back over to the same UFO flyby sets that have produced the space alien cruise ship visit forecast still pending, as well as the flyby woo-woo experience viewed on the Kaiser Report RT show a number of years back, which, by the way, WebBot called that in advance. And sure enough, while they're on the show, they looked out, oh, what the heck was that? WebBot called that in advance. Max Kaiser show. Is that not incredible? These sets are all tied to the strange visible atmospheric phenomena sets forecasting a very active sky through 2017. Australia pop. In the continuing growth of the corruption exposed by secrets revealed meme, we have yet more data for construction corruption at an international level that will be news across Australia pop. These sets have the victim being U.S. taxpayers, as it will come to light about sweetheart deals for materials for USA construction in Australia. The emotional point of the corruption sets are not the money-making and kickbacks and overcharging, but rather the blackmail that will be shown to have followed track of the minor level corruption. This will elevate the corruption in Australia pop officialdom to world-class status as their participation in global crimes will be coming out. Some of these sets have Australia pop politicians crying, "They made me do it," to many new crimes, and spilling out many of the secrets revealed that will be fuel to the fire of global pop citizen journalists. Yet more sets for woo-woo continue to connect Australia pop to the discovery in Antarctica. And now we have pyramid language showing up about Australia, the continent. These sets are going to the idea that pyramids in Antarctica will be causing big digs around the Australian pyramids. Data sets have the Australia pop pyramid being exposed by digging as yet more foreigners show up to start bossing the locals. This time the data has local population getting really irritated and creating both law and popular movements that will be both blocking and exposing. The foreigners are going to be blocked and also at one point arrested. This is indicated to cause yet more press about problems that will be causing vomiting by the legacy press or media and the officialdom of the global ruling elites. The pyramids of Australia's meme is indicated to grow over 2017 with new impetus to explosive news coming out over late 2017 and throughout the first half of 2018. These sets are referencing technologies, again, with many of the same supporting sets as have been seen in milespace for Antarctica. The data sets are showing that records of the expeditions by pharaoh dynasties to Australia in attempts to recover power devices and technology and tools. So here we are thinking the pharaoh days, Egyptian days, were ancient. We're going to find records that those people went to this place to find secrets, recover power devices, which means how old is this place? Like the Webbot has been saying, we're going to be rewriting world history in the coming future. USA Pop, as forecast in previous Alta reports, the impacts on health of the dismantling/destruction of the old crony monopoly healthcare system will be positive. The data is forecasting that USA Pop will have far fewer deaths as the doctor system dies instead of its fodder, mostly misnamed as patients. As forecast in past Alta reports, the data sets have had just-in-time supply systems crumbling, and that is certainly being seen in the global transportation of goods by water, rail, and air, at least at the long-haul level. The various debt layers are showing in the data as providing a return to local supply chains mentality for corporations that will be coincident with and supporting of the Trump administration move to source jobs at home. What is interesting now about these longer-term sets becoming manifest is that the other sets that were growing alongside these over time included our sets for gold and silver emerge as money, and gold and silver reestablish their ratio, and silver aims for parity with gold. Note that these are all sets that are only 10 years, that are over 10 years in our processing. These sets continue to gain new growth, and these new supporting sets are primarily filling with the shorter term sets for manifestation and longer term sets for impacts. The Renaissance language shows up as being shifted in its context into what we call hyper technologies or hypertech here at Half Past Human. These sets are also in supporting positions for revolution that goes directly in support to the discovery in Antarctica that continues to grow in the new data mining. The discovery crosslinks that have the USA Pop building a conduit to Antarctica in a logistics meaning of the word. These sets are describing a transformation of the corporations and their collective mindset within USA officialdom. Many of these sets are indicating an emotional abandonment of the interest of the banking system and the race toward new hyper-technologies that are forecast as starting to be more than rumor at the upper echelon of corporations globally. This upper-level context change, paradigm shift within the ruling elites, is forecast as having some visible clues as the military-industrial complex, including the entertainment complex, all start withdrawal from global conflicts to focus resources on the discovery in Antarctica. Yet more sets arrive in supporting position to the idea of political fracturing continuing as the media battles also continue. The new battlefield for the media is indicated to shift daily as the skirmishes seek to locate weak spots. These sets have Bitcoin coming up as a subject within the media wars over late February and throughout all of March and into April. The data sets are showing that panic that is developing as the legacy media begins to experience both defections of former stars as well as deaths. It is the latter that is showing as propelling the former, as the mysterious deaths of legacy media stars is showing as almost instantly coming up as major conspiracy hotspot, leading to speculations that someone is cleaning up the loose ends. These sets further bring up details for panic and freak out as former legacy media stars begin defecting and quitting the dying media empires. The data has the knowledge shocks being felt in USA Pop at levels far higher than any other populations. These knowledge shocks are forecast to be exploding in the brains of academia and other mainstream paradigm people over much of these 2 years. The data sets suggest that the level of shocks to be sustained to the consensus paradigm within USA Pop over these next 2 years is such that school teachers and professors will be resigning and just drifting off as they discover that everything they ever taught was a lie. These sets have a hierarchy of the afflicted with both history teachers and physicists at the top. Many of these sets are showing that the breakdowns within the schooling system within USA Pop over these next 10 years will be able to be traced to events forecast to be mere months ahead. These secrets revealed sets continue to pile new data into the growth pattern such that the total effect is a giant lake, too long, dammed up, emptying in thousands of ways once the first crack appears in the edifice. These sets have many new forms of truth and reconciliation, as well as re-education efforts being described as has long been forecast within the Alta reports. Our data sets have been focusing on the death of the dollar days since early 2001. The snapback period is when we have the most language for hyperinflation within USA Pop accruing to model space. The hyperinflation language starts as model space is moved through April and May, but its main impact does not show until later in 2017 and beyond. During the snapback period of fall and winter, the data accrual patterns have very large levels of debate ongoing at all strata of USA Pop. These sets have some hints that a deliberate release of secrets by the administration is at the center of the debate. It would appear, so there are some small amounts of emotional sums that support this conclusion, that as a strategy, the administration is going to unleash turmoil with knowledge to be declassified that is described as being so shocking and so absorbing as to take months to both read through, acquire, and to integrate into personal world view. These sets probably should be in the Space Goats Farts area, as there are many unknown sets that make this area read like a CIA redacted briefing. However, their focus is clearly on USA Pop, the period of chaos in the year that causes the Strategy 3 approach to be chosen. As these sets appeared in model space in early March through though with no visibility values indicating publicly available language, it would appear to be safe in projecting that some point between late March and September, there will be a deliberate and planned strategic release of woo-woo knowledge as a third strategy to destroy the mindset of the rampaging opposition within USA Pop. The data sets have this strategic release taking place over several months in tranches. There are sets indicating that globalists and power elites will get the wind up about the release ahead of its planned outing to the public. The power elites are then shown as going on the offensive with the pre-release defense of themselves and their pedophile/crimes or pedophilia/crimes. This itself is indicated to backfire, as the secrets revealed will not be about their personal crimes, but rather go to the collective crime of history alteration and deep woo-woo crimes. Further, the data sets are indicating that as the Strategy 3 information spreads throughout USA Pop, the fascination factor is going to be such that energy will be sucked out of the rebellion by the triple effects of hyperinflation, ruining the consumer point of view, Strategy 3 ruining the rebellion point of view, backlash against the pedophilia cabal gaining strength and diverting young rage toward more salacious crimes. I'm running out of time. Markets. Let me pause for a second so I can pick a few things that I want to discuss because I'm running out of time. All right, I'm going to make this super brief so I can get onto the woo-woo. Hyperinflation word is repeated numerous times, USA related. Within model space, we have housing prices in most of the developed world, including China, as deflating over these next few years. The deflation is described as hitting over 80% in some markets in their local currency. The downward pressure on prices for such things as housing and vehicles are reflected in soaring prices in necessary goods that is also forecast as rising 80% in the same period. So while those things are going down, the needed things are going up, food and stuff. Bitcoin does, and according to the data sets, will be used in a public way demonstration very soon. While the demonstration is indicated to be just for effect and a marketing idea, the result is showing as a real showing of power of Bitcoin. The confusion sets are supporting the rise in Bitcoin prices in US dollars as they have some market confusion in the midst of scary new highs with shaky fundamentals causing jitters. I'm just scrolling. I want to get down to the woo-woo. because I'm running out of time. Coin dealers. The new aspect and attribute sets that accrue for February 3rd are for silver and specifically include sets for silver traders and silver exchanges, as well as silver suppression and silver supporting and silver demand. All of these sets in total are slightly more than half of the gain for the day in this tranche of new emotional values. These sets bring in details for sweaty palms, fainting grown men, and heart attacks, aid cars, emergency rooms, and vomiting, and other sets that will not be due to the influenza outbreak. These sets have our new Bitcoin prices beginning in early February to scale up as the currency's crisis begins quite seriously. One more thing, as model spaces move forward into February, we continue to have growing new supporting sets with currency's crisis as well as Bitcoin, gold, silver as a positive response. These sets are now showing growth arriving in spurts on the 3rd of February, the 5th, and again on the 10th of this month. I'm going to finish with these 3 paragraphs or so. Space Goats Farts. The data sets are gaining new supporting values in both immediacy and shorter term types. For Antarctica, secrets revealed, forecast to appear in clumps by the end of March 2017. There are apparently reasons for the March 2017 revelations date on the part of officialdom. While noted in the data as existing, we don't have any of the reasons themselves showing. Acceleration of the woo-woo personalities into what we call mega internet fabulous status is indicated to grow very rapidly over 2017, with much of the growth in 2 separated periods, the first in late February through into May, and the next from September through to the end of the year. Data sets have the Antarctica The Discovery showing up as altering Christmas in 2017 for most of those in global pop who involved themselves in that holiday. The alteration of Christmas holiday is not alone. The data has Antarctica revelations being so affecting of religious humanity that Jewish and Islamic, to a lesser extent, holidays are also changed profoundly. The language suggests that we will all be reading speculations about, is this the end of religions and their holidays as we know it, or as we knew it? Final paragraph. Other sets that are linguistically linked to Antarctica include a number of new sets for a sound revolution that is described as being an outgrowth or side effect of the discovery in Antarctica. The data has the sound revolution expressing itself in many forms. As an instance, there are going to be very large levels of new interest in monk noises, including chanting, as these monk noises are to be discovered in our exploration of the discovery. Apparently, the data is describing a cache of recordings of ancient monk noises, music/chanting/instruments, that will be complex harmonics of a staggering number, possibly tens of millions. And, as described by the data, when taken as a whole, will form a fractal representation of the human body, which is but the aggregate of tens of millions of healing sounds. The idea coming from the data is that a library of specifically focused healing sounds will be located with the discovery. These tens of millions of records, not necessarily records as in vinyl, are described as first being thought of as a medical record of people, such as their illnesses and such. The missed understanding/impression is shows within the data as being corrected by an outsider as part of the temporal markers that appear about the release of the monk noise. The really excellent part of these sets are that these noises are or will be showing as being instantly superior to any form of remedial care, medicine, drugs, etc., for the cure of the human body. This new form of vibration therapy is part of the many sets that are indicated as affecting and altering humanity's relationship with its own bodies. This last set has been in the data and alter reports in the past, as was expressing in the longer term values. So I did have to cut out a bit of the market sensitivity. But again, if you want the full report, much more detail again in these things, halfpasthuman.com. One report, $15. You can also buy it with Bitcoin if you have Bitcoin. Take care.